If you want to support the channel, then please check out my Patreon page to gain access to exclusive videos, take part in Q&As, and watch my retrospectives before they go live on YouTube. Spider-Man No Way Home is finally out in cinemas. The latest entry in the series explores the multiverse with the villains of the previous Spider-Man movies, from the Tobey Maguire and Andrew Garfield cinematic adventures, making an appearance to do battle with Tom Holland in the modern MCU. The hype for this movie has been off the chart, with the trailers getting huge viewing figures on YouTube. The fans speculating who's going to be in the film has been non-stop. Sony Pictures have had to keep security tight, more so than usual, to avoid anyone spoiling it. The promotional material has been very smart in not revealing too much. Most film studios often get a bit too desperate to show you too much to entice the fans to part with their cash, but with the little of what they have shown, it's already got people excited. Showing less has worked out well. The film opens directly on from Far From Home. Mysterio has framed Peter Parker for his murder during the attack in Europe and outed him as Spider-Man to the public. The false news has spread across the city thanks to J. Jonah Jameson. Parker flees from an angry crowd with his girlfriend MJ and returns back to his apartment. The media has followed him and has surrounded his home, and he, his friends and his aunt are taken in by the Department of Damage Control and interrogated. Due to the recent controversy, it screwed up Pete, MJ and Ned's university applications, resulting in them getting rejected. Parker, not knowing what to do, has the bright idea of consulting with Doctor Strange, asking him to cast a spell to make people forget he is Spider-Man. Despite Wong's warnings of the consequences that could occur, Strange casts a spell anyway. However, the spell is damaged when Peter insists on changing the rules of the spell. Doctor Strange kicks Parker out for making a mess of things, so Parker takes things into his own hands in a sensible way and tries to persuade the MIT administrator to accept their applications. Suddenly the bridge is smashed up by Dr. Octavius, who makes his big entrance, and the Green Goblin appears from the chaos and attacks. Like most people, I was very excited to see this movie, despite being a bit burnt out on the recent films after Endgame. Black Widow and the Eternals I had no desire to watch, but this really got me intrigued down to it dealing with the multiverse. Having these classic villains return was a great idea. I don't want to spoil anything for the fans and those who want to watch it fresh and experience these surprises firsthand, so all I can say is that it should deliver on your expectations. I think you will walk out of this movie with a big smile on your face. Dealing with fan service and how to execute it is difficult, and there is a fine line of going too far, as it could come across as forced and on the nose, or just relying on it to keep you entertained to hide the fact the story isn't really doing its job. But the writers and director have found a nice balance of executing the fan service, but not let it weigh on the story. You don't just sit there waiting for some nostalgic moment to happen, you feel invested. But saying that, if you strip away the fan service and what it's attempting to do by throwing in these characters from other universes, it does reveal itself to be somewhat of a thin story, but there is so much going on around the main narrative, it doesn't become an issue. I was glued to my seat the entire time. The Marvel films all have a good dose of humour. Some lean on it too much, but Spider-Man across all the films has a good amount of jokes, because Spider-Man is a cocky sort of character. So the film does deliver some good laugh-out-loud moments. Jamie Foxx in particular gets some good lines, and I think he gets a better role in this, or say his character comes across as more interesting than his previous portrayal of Electro in Amazing Spider-Man 2. There are some moments where the comedy doesn't quite hit, I think down to the editing, and you also get a sense that some of the actors aren't there for all their dialogue scenes on the day. For example, someone is missing and their reaction or reply is shot later on, making some select scenes appear that they were created in the edit, and the characters don't feel like they are having a natural conversation. It's only a nitpick, but once you spot it, you begin to notice it more often. One of the standout performances is Willem Dafoe. He is back to his old self, hamming it up and chewing his dialogue. It's such a wonderful comic book style performance. He really is a nasty piece of work in this film, further enforcing that the Green Goblin is still Spider-Man's greatest villain. Of course, it was wonderful seeing Alfred Molina return as Doc Ock, one of the finest actors, and bring so much to the role. You couldn't imagine anyone else playing the part, very much like J.K. Simmons as Jameson. The film does end up having a lot of characters to juggle. In some cases it can end up feeling overstuffed, a bit like Spider-Man 3, which had a lot of story threads to tie up by the end, but Far From Home somehow manages to balance it and give enough time to each character so it doesn't feel like they have disappeared for huge lengths of time. The movie doesn't lose its focus, and Spider-Man has to correct the mistakes he has made, but has to pay the price for what he has done, which leads to the emotional impacts, which are handled with care. Michael Giacchino's score does a great job of underscoring the action and really nails it when it comes to the emotional moments, probably his best Spider-Man score to date. The score comes into its own when Dr. Octavius arrives, then goes full swing. There are musical nods to the Maguire and Garfield films, making use of the Danny Elfman and James Horner themes, which were a nice touch. But it also made it obvious to me that those themes are more memorable than Michael's work for this new series. The visual effects are to the usual high standard. I love seeing the mirror world which Spider-Man is thrown into by Doctor Strange. We had seen it done before in Doctor Strange's first movie outing, but it still makes for a great visual action sequence. The action throughout is well executed. The finale, which will impress the fans, did feel somewhat similar to the end battle in Spider-Man 3. I was getting a sense of deja vu. This definitely feels like a return to form from Marvel. It has the same energy and excitement that came with the MCU flicks during the height of their success. Since the end of the main series with Endgame, you got a sense they were just plodding along, not really offering much new to further progress to the next stage, because this long-running narrative had come to an end. But this felt like a complete recharge, and the prospect of where they intend to go next is quite exciting. I'm looking forward to seeing the next Doctor Strange film, for example, which is being directed by Sam Raimi, which I hope is going to be totally bonkers. I pray Bruce Campbell gets a cameo, perhaps playing Doctor Strange from another universe. No Way Home is going to be a huge success. Spider-Man has a massive fan base, and this is the ultimate compilation album. It's a fine-tuned best-of, which will please fans from the Sam Raimi trilogy to Spider-Man's latest adventures. Highly recommended, don't miss it.